Yeah, all of a sudden COVID looks pretty small. It was seven pianos, and you know, there was 3 Steinways in there. You know, this is a 50,000 square foot structure, and I'm loading it into 6 or 7 dump trucks.
We always have hope. We're running out of time.
What I read in the National Weather Service forecast for the state of Oregon was we were going to have a wind event, a kind of event that happens only a few times in 100 years.
Red flag warning throughout much of the Pacific Northwest.
And it hadn't rained in 83 days in the valley, so things were ready to go.
Essentially very extreme high fire danger.
On that day, we had some of the driest conditions we've ever seen. We had very warm temperatures, and we had extremely gusty winds, gusting in excess of 40 miles an hour. We also had a severe to extreme drought, so all the vegetation was tinder dry.
Homes and landscapes in those kinds of scenarios are really ready to burn.
Seeing the signs to the side of me swaying back and forth, it is picking up.
They got the word before that day started we weren't going to get any help from the outside.
It is a day to be careful, folks.
So woke up Tuesday morning, I got dressed in all my wildland firefighting gear, which I basically never do.
We still didn't know what was going to happen because you don't know where the sparks will occur.
And also something that I never do is I didn't go to the office, I just went on patrol. Because a day like that, one spark,
about 11 o'clock.
When the grass fire tones came over my radio.
Tones go off, grass fire, ALMEDA Drive. My initial thought is, that's a terrible place to have a fire start.
It was really like game on.
I'm looking at this going, okay, we're gonna get this. You know, we got people out of the area. We saved the homes that were initially threatened. And then within several minutes, we get the first calls for structures threatened on Jackson Road.
The flame front has passed us and is moving north along I-5. Structures threatened, we've got at least 30-foot flames.
September 8th was a day that any first responder in Jackson County will likely never forget.
Division is being evacuated by 8.
The air is just filled with horrible smoke.
Fire is not
So much of what we own now is derived from petrochemicals, and when that burns, it just makes horrible, acrid, poisonous smoke. And so that's just filling the air everywhere as all these houses burn. So it's really a terrible environment to be working in. And then about that time, the water supply started to run low.
First engine hooked up to the hydrant, and they called me on the radio and said, we have no water in the system. I said, no, that can't be possible. You know, something's wrong with that hydrant. Go to the next hydrant, same thing. Open the hydrant up, no water came out.
And so we're starting to lose ground now because we don't have water.
We now have an issue. We have a huge amount of fire. We're trying to protect, another 1,000 structures without an adequate water supply.
At that point, when we were able to start doing a water shuttle, it's not ideal by any means, but you have to think about how fast that water goes away. If we can put 1,000 gallons of water in one of these engines, but you're trying to flow 200 gallons a minute, that gives you 5 minutes of water.
There's a little fire right here. It's gonna burn these houses down. I put out a couple of these already. There's not really a whole lot I can do. Got tennis shoes on.
We talk a lot about, well, what can make your home less flammable? And the things that I saw burning were bark mulch. Like, bark mulch was on fire everywhere. It was on fire in people's yards. As soon as you put out one little spot of flaming bark mulch, another one popped up right next to it, and over there and over there. It was just constant.
We're here, the firefighters were here just a few minutes ago with their hose, spraying all these little things out in the bark mulch. Wow, that one's really hot.
Every once in a while I look over and we'll catch a crew member on their hands and knees, throwing up, because they were just, you know, they had sucked in so much bad stuff.
It's really hard to drive through some of these neighborhoods still and imagine just how quickly the fire moved, how fast these families, these people needed to respond, and just the sheer terror that they must have experienced.
We're all working really hard. I mean, none of us are doing great. You know, my lead carpenter, his house burned down, and he's here today, you know, to help out.
It's totally surreal. Because you think, you know, you hear about people losing their homes, you know, and I guess you think it's always somebody else. But the reality that it's your place and stuff, it was just unbelievable.
Myself being a third-generation restaurant owner and growing up in this valley, felt a real strong need to do something bigger and more long-term than just an immediate relief effort. We put our heads together and came up with this idea to feed people nourishing, comforting meals.
Without the immediate response of the communities, I think we would have had a much larger humanitarian crisis. In fact, I know that because talking to the Red Cross, that was their main response immediately, was that you guys have responded so well locally that you saved yourselves really from a further widespread disaster than what it could have been.
We got a phone call about a half hour ago saying that the Rogue Valley Symphony was going to be out at Station 2, and so a bunch of us wrapped up what we were up to and booked it over here to listen to the symphony play, and it was really amazing to watch.
It makes a big difference, all the small things. And maybe not, you know, we're not able to help, you know, hundreds of people in here today, but for the few people that will be able to walk easily into their new home or their temporary home, I mean, it's going to make a difference to them.
It also feels like a bad dream when you're trying to run away from danger and you can't run. We just can't move fast enough to get ahead of what's coming. I've been staring down Interstate 5 for over a decade, watching the fires in California creep north toward Oregon. But the big one is on its way, and we saw in Talent in Phoenix the absolute devastation of what that kind of fire can do. We need to work faster to prepare ourselves for the inevitable fire that's going to impact our town.